guys, how are you doing? So, happy new year. Let me start there. I know it's a little bit late into the new year, but a lot's been going on, right? And if you guys have been anywhere in these internet streets, you've probably already seen it, heard it, wondered about it. And so I said, let me go on and talk about, right? So I'm not just going to talk about AI. I know that's in the title, so we're going to get there, but that's not where we're going to start. I want to talk about a few things that are happening or proposed to happen or have been happening in 2023 that we should look at and consider, especially if you're dealing with content creation, SEO. I already told you, if you guys did not listen to that last episode I did on the recession and stuff like that. So I might say it again, but I'm not going to go deep because there's a whole episode on that. We'll make sure it's linked here in the show notes. But let's talk about kind of my predictions. And I say that with air quotes this time because I'm not predicting it. It's already happening, right? So this isn't what I think is going to happen. This is what I know is happening right now, and more of what I think is going to impact us and how it's going to impact us. So let's talk about the predictions of what is going on. What do we think we're going to see more of or less of in 2023 with SEO, content marketing, and really online business in general? I got a list. Y'all know me in my notes, right? So first thing I want to talk about is, which I think I've already talked about this in another episode, but I'm probably going to talk about this in almost every episode this year because it's important. And even if I just put it as a PSA, I do not want you guys to fall victim to this whole GA3, GA4 changeover. So Google Analytics, so a lot of us use it as a way to see what's happening on our site. I highly recommend it. I love it, right? Google Analytics is a free tool provided by Google, and for the last umpteenth years, I don't even know how long we've been on GA3, but for the last umpteenth years, we've been on GA3, right? And so we've gotten very used to reading our data, reading our analytics the way that we see it now in Google Analytics. The year before last, they started rolling out a new version, which is called GA4. We're calling it GA4. It's still Google Analytics. It's just version 3 as opposed to version 4. But they're rolling out this new version of Google Analytics. It is not completely, but it's a lot different than our current look at Google Analytics, right? So things that used to be sessions are now called events. Things like, what's the thing? Bounce rate. I've already started to forget it because I need to, right? Bounce rate is going away, and just overall they're looking at data and looking at the activity that happens on our sites a lot differently. And the good side is that now you'll be able to query it differently and kind of be more specific, like how many people came to this page and that page and then did something else after. Like that'll be an event, right? So we can do more with the data, but of course it's going to mean we're going to have to do more to get ready for the data, but we can do more with the data. And so it's not a bad thing, but it does require a huge shift in how we think about analytics. Also a huge shift in what we're tracking with analytics. And this is what's important and where the PSA comes from. So although GA4 has been available for quite some time, and if you've not already, you should go in and make sure you hit the little blue bar at the top to start tracking your GA4 data. Do that now, even if you don't know what to do with it. Do it now, because in June of this year, they are going to be turning off GA3 completely, right? And I say completely, those who can see the camera, see the little hand chop, completely, because from my understanding, or as of now, they are going to be doing away with everything that GA3 was. Like they gave us some time to get over, and it's over, right? They're going to stop not only getting new GA3 data, but they're going to also stop housing new GA3 data. So what that means to us is that we need to be downloading, tracking our GA3 stuff offline somewhere, so we have it, I would say at least for the last 12 months, and then making sure that GA4 is starting to pick up our data now, so that way when we start GA4, using GA4, like seriously, you're going to have to in June. If you don't start earlier than that, you're going to have to in June. But when you start using it seriously, then you will have some data in there to use, because it starts at whatever day you start it, right? So it starts at day one. It is not looking at the past. So that's really important. Now, if you are an SEO Assist user, some of you guys know my company, SEO Assist, one of the things we have in there is a metrics tracker. Right now, the metrics tracker tracks the questions it asks you, because it doesn't track everything that you have in GA3, but the questions it asks you are all based on GA3. So if you're already an SEO Assist user, or if you're going to become one soon, right, go in there and fill out the information for the last 12 months. You can set the dates the way you want to. Fill out that information for the last 12 months. That way you have it somewhere nice and safe. Make sure you sign up for GA4. We are currently working on the GA4 flows. And so in the next couple of months, when you go in there, you're going to see, look at your GA3 data or look at your GA4 data. So you're going to kind of see what you can do with that data, which is important and it's good. It's exactly what we want to do, because we want to make sure you have the previous data and we want to make sure you got what you need for right now. That is number one, the big change. And like I said, that's not a prediction. It is happening. I am predicting that in May or June, folks will freak out because they're going to lose all their data, right? And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be like us. It's going to be the entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. It's going to be the people who aren't necessarily as familiar with SEO, haven't been tracking, because anyone who runs an SEO company and does SEO, they've been working on this. They've been figuring this out. They've been preparing for this. It's going to be you guys who aren't necessarily in that world day to day. And I'm not saying you need to get in that world day to day, but I'm just saying that be clear, this change is happening. And then you guys, because I've already started myself, but I don't want you guys to be the most impacted by it, right? So that's number one, right? Number two is people first content. So last year, a lot of the updates that we saw come in from Google were all about what they call people first content, meaning that they were looking really strongly at EAT, which is expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, is the way that they evaluate your site and your content to see where it ranks among all the other things. It's also a way that they demote some stuff, right? Last year, especially with everything that happened with the 2020 election and potential harmful or inaccurate content out there. So they did a lot for that, but then came along AI, and AI's been out there. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it really blew up. And so then they also had to start thinking about, how do I combat against AI content? And that is the people first updates that we saw last year, that we are going to continue to see similar updates this year. Just this week, I was in a Clubhouse room with my SEO friends, right? So I was just in one of my Clubhouse rooms, and we were talking about, one of the things that came up in the conversation was that there are already tools out there to look for AI created reviews. We happen to be talking about reviews, so that's where this came up. But Google already can tell if someone writes a review for a business and it looks like it's written by AI, because people are doing that, right? And so if they're already on top of reviews, know that they're right on the heels of site content. And they're going to be on the heels of everything. Believe me, if you're using AI for, people are starting to say, oh, I can write a resume, I can write a paper, I can write this. That many things that we can write with AI, there's going to be something to combat it being written with AI, if it's inappropriate for it to be written. But we'll get to that in a minute. I said I was not going to go deep into AI first, right? So people first content, making sure that your content is, and we'll talk more about EAT on the channel and on the show, but making sure that your content is that is establishing your expertise, your authority, and the trustworthiness of your business and your site. And trustworthiness is also a couple of things you can do on your site. I'll do a whole episode on that type of stuff. Let me know in the comments, or let me know in the group if you guys want to learn more of that, right? I'll either make it a podcast or I'll make it a private training, but we'll figure something out, right? Next thing I want to talk about is the backlinks, right? So you guys know backlinks are like the secret sauce of SEO. Now, there's been some debate, right, and going back and forth with how effective backlinks are for SEO anymore. Is Google still looking at them? At one point, they said they were looking at them less, but then with this whole EAT thing coming about and people first content, they started looking at them more, because it's one of the very few ways you can tell how valuable something is, by seeing how other people are linking to them. Now I hear they might be moving back away from it a little bit. Here's what I'm going to say. backlinks ain't hurt nobody, right? And so it does not hurt to get backlinks. You guys know I do not promote like buying backlinks or spammy backlinks. There are services that'll go out there and get you legitimate backlinks, but make sure that it's a service that's doing it and going out and getting legitimate backlinks, not just, hey, we can get you 1,000 links, right? That's definitely spammy, right? No parts of that are legit. One of the ways that I recommend, and there's another episode I did back in 2020, which is still true today, I recommend getting on podcasts. I even do a workshop. We have things in SEO Assist to help you just get on podcasts. 2 reasons why, right? One, because it's a legitimate backlink, and it's kind of one of the easiest things. If you could talk for an hour, you can get a backlink, right? So it's super easy for my thought leaders, my experts, my expert entrepreneurs, the way we talk about here in this community, right? So that's 1. 2, backlinks aren't just for SEO. Especially if you're on podcasts, because podcasts have audiences too. Podcasts have a podcaster that's growing that audience, right? And so you are going to have the advantage of, by being on someone's show, you're going to have that advantage of not just the SEO benefits, but also the immediate benefits of getting in front of this new audience, being in front of the people who have the show, being there as they grow the show. I tell you guys, sometimes I was an early guest, not one of the first, but an early guest on the Revision Path podcast years and years ago. This is before they like blew up the way they blow up now, right? Everybody always lists them, talking about them and stuff like that, right? And because I was in that early guest, right, I am in their archives. I am there, right? So when people are Googling me, they see them. When people are Googling them, they see me. So there's no downside really to being a guest on a podcast. And like I said, I have workshops, I do the matchmaking event, I do all kinds of things to help you guys get these kind of backlinks because they're just so valuable in so many ways. I'm going to tell you, go back to 2020 episode, but also that's going to be really important in 2023 because even if Google decides, oh, we don't like backlinks anymore, right? That podcast is still going to help you and still going to keep you growing. We like to work smarter, not harder. And being on podcasts is definitely one of those ways that we can make this happen, right? And we should be making this happen. So that's a little bit about backlinks. And also, just so you guys know, will this be out in time? I think it'll be out in time. Our next podcast Pitch Fest workshop is going to be February 6th and 7th. Head on over to seoassist.com/events and you'll get all the details for the next upcoming workshop. And or if you listen to this after February 5th, 6th, and 7th, then you can see when our next one is going to be because we're going to be planning them out more in advance and give you guys advance notice, right? So you know what to do to get into some of these workshops and some of these events that we're having. So just head on over to seoassist.com/events and you'll see when the next workshop is. But that workshop is dope because we literally research, plan, and write all of your podcast pitch. We call it Pitch Fest because we do. The goal is to do about 10 or 20, but we definitely try to do at least 3 to 5 that day. And then you have the whole process to do the rest for your Pitch Fest, right? The last one that we had in December was amazing. The ladies learned so much. So I want to see you guys there. Make sure you guys head on over to seoassist.com/events and figure out how to get these backlinks, these podcast interviews for backlinks like we're talking about now. So let's get into the elephant in everyone's room right now, AI, right? So AI is going to be a really, really big part of what everyone's going to talk about for 2023, right? It's going to be part of our strategy. It's going to be part of what we're considering. It's going to be part of the tools we use. Like this AI conversation is going to continue to explode. I've been asked, I'll probably just almost similar to like Clubhouse. It'll start and then I'll have more and more to talk about it because it's really just that big, if not bigger, because it really is going to visibly affect everyone. And let me explain to you about my little caveat about visibly affect everyone, because if you don't know, AI is not new. It's not new. I know everybody keeps talking about new AI and AI is new. AI is these big things, but honestly, that's just not true. AI has been around for a very long time. What is new is the accessibility, availability of it, right? It's been around for a long time and it's been in tools that you already use. If you've used Grammarly, which I love Grammarly, but if you've used Grammarly, they're using AI. If you use Amazon, they've been using AI. If you use, what are some of the other ones that we know? Any transcription tool these days. So if you're using Rev or Otter or any of those kind of tools, they're all using some sort of AI, right? What's different is now the availability of it, and like I said, the visibility, and now that more people, accessibility of it, now that more people can see it and use it, that is what's new, right? That's kind of, we can now play with it. And I've been playing with it for a while. So you guys know I have SEO Assist. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here. I have SEO Assist, which is what I call AI Lite. If actually right now, the day of this recording, publicly, there's no AI flows that are available. And we specifically built it in mind of using your authentic voice. And so now we're kind of using it to zhuzh up your voice with AI. So it's not necessarily AI written or AI initiated. And I'll talk about what some of those things mean. It really starts with what you say and then using AI to enhance that or make it better. Because like I similarly just said, there are tools that are out there that are being built to combat AI. We keeping that in mind because we know Google, right? And we know that Google not necessarily AI. So we're not going to give you a tool that's going to say, hey, write me a paragraph about such and such, and we're going to fly with that, because Google's immediately going to be like, that is AI and that's got to go, right? So instead, building a little bit slower, but building out, like, how do we use the things that you are going to say and add a little bit of AI to zhuzh it up, add to it, give you suggestions on what to do next, what else to add based on what is out there, that kind of thing. So that's how we're building, and that's how I'm going to say, if a tool ain't building that way, then it may not be the tool for you to use. At least it's like a knowledge-based business where you sell your expertise. You're telling people what you know. You can't have AI writing it for you. It just doesn't, not completely make sense. You know what I mean? Then that means you're not talking about what you know. And not necessarily have AI just writing it for you, but have AI telling you what to write and then writing it for you. Then that's no you involved in this AI thing. So let me tell you what I know about AI, what I'm thinking, where I think AI is going, and of course, my notes, right? So getting into AI. So I talked a little bit about SEO Assist, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but this isn't just about SEO Assist. So what is AI? AI is essentially some tool has been fed all of this information, all of this data, and now it can give you answers. It can help to clean data up based on what it knows. So like in the case of Grammarly, it knows proper English, it knows proper spelling, it knows all these things. And so that it's already been fed. So when you put in your content, or the way that you can be just filling out something online, or you can go to their system and copy in a whole thing. I use Grammarly a lot for like spell checking, which I know isn't always still perfect, and grammar and stuff, because I will admit I am one of the worst proofreaders out there. So I write and I think really fast. So what comes out, it is, right? So I use it for stuff like that, right? And so it already knows the proper grammar. It's got all the grammar textbooks in it. It's got all the spelling textbooks in it. And so it looks at your content and says, okay, we know what this should be. Your content is not that. Here's what we think you should change. That's how it's using AI. And then there's what has really caused the explosion, the more recent explosion of the use of AI, is that there's a company, OpenAI, that has been building this model called GPT-3 and I think we're now up to GPT-5, but you'll probably still hear people say GPT-3. Just think GPT, right? That has been building this model to be more human-like, have more information, like more of everything, not just specific like grammar or spelling or something like that. It has been built to have more of everything, be able to look at it based on context. So if you say, write me about hair care, right? If you say, write me about hair care, it can go out and now write something. Because it has so much data built into it, it can go out and pull out everything that it's seen and heard and knows about hair care, and it can write that for you. So that's essentially what AI is and what AI is doing. And what's making it more the big buzz and build about it now is that this GPT has created, and they have multiple models. So that's why you're seeing AI images, because they have some for imaging. They have one for code. They have 5 right now models, right? Based on what kind of text you need, like one just for editing, one that's good for a lot of everything. DaVinci is the one that's good for a lot of everything. And so that itself is what's improving the availability of it. And then they made their models open via, first they started with open via API, meaning you had to have a software for people to like use, and then have to be able to code and stuff like that. So that's kind of, we're using the open AI models. We're not using Chat GPT. So I'm telling y'all that now, right? So they made this available for people like me who kind of have apps and are building and know how to code and stuff like that. Other people could go in there and play with it, but you had to kind of know a little bit about what to do and what you're playing with. Kind of the techie level, let me just say that, right? And then just at the tail end of last year, so this is the thing that everybody says is new, right? What's new is that they pretty much built their own tool to access it, which is what Chat GPT is. So Chat GPT is a tool that is owned by OpenAI right now, because we all know they're under talks, right? But it's owned by OpenAI, and it's built to allow people to use it even if they aren't that tech level. So if they don't have an app, or if they don't have a coding knowledge, you could just go in there and have a conversation with it. And it's conversational. So if you go in, I'll tell you about 2 different scenarios, but if you go in and say, tell me about hair care, and it gives you an answer, and you're like, that's not, like, I need to know about my hair care. If someone, like, if I was doing something about my hair care and I was like, oh, this is, let me know about black hair care, or let me know about hair that's colored hair, because you guys know my hair is red, right? Right? If I wanted to know about colored hair care, how to care for colored hair, I can now say, tell me about more hair care that's preparing for color, or more hair care that is like a 4A, 4B. So I can get more detailed, right? And have a conversation. And instead of it saying, like, start all over again, it's going to continue to give me more drill down information. So that's what Chat GPT has opened up to the world, right? So now AI that we've probably been using a little bit, now they're starting to see other things and other possibilities, and being able to pull in other information. Here's some of the caveats to that. While I think overall AI is good, right? Over AI, I am not a boo on AI. It's 2 things that are an issue. Is one, is it's still a machine, right? It's using machine learning, but it's still a machine. It still has some issues, some errors, some inconsistencies. We'll talk about that in a moment. 2 is, how are people going to use it? A lot of people have talked about the ethics of AI, especially if you're a person who keeps up to date on technology and changes the technology. There have been some ethical issues with AI. And the ethical issues aren't necessarily with AI itself. It's really based on, it's a dumb machine, right? And you can ask it things that are questionable. And even if you go into Chat GPT, which is the thing most people won't tell you, or aren't telling people as they're talking about, you got to start using this, right? It doesn't tell you that right on the home page. As soon as you log in, it tells you some of the data may be inaccurate. Some of the data may be sensitive or insensitive, and they don't mean for it to come out that way, right? Because it's a machine. It's a dumb machine. Now, granted, they've trained the machine. Let's not talk about some of these things, right? But that doesn't mean if someone asks a question, it won't give you some sort of answer, because that's what it's made to do, right? So if you go in there and ask about race relations, we're going to hope it says the right things. But if you drill down and start asking it certain questions, it's going to give you certain answers, right? I'm just going to say it that way. You can also train it to give you incorrect answers. One of the cases in one of the videos I was watching, this is a little early on, is that it doesn't necessarily do math. Right? Again, it's going to give you answers based on what's out there, but it doesn't necessarily have a calculator to do calculations. So in this case that I was reading, somebody asked what was 10 plus 9, and the answer is 19, right? But then they came back and said, no, the answer is 20, right? And then they asked the question again, and it said, but it's in the same conversation, right? So they had to be in the same flow of the conversation, when they asked again, what is 10 plus 9? It said, according to our conversation, it's 20. It does not do math, but it was reading, you told it was 20, and so now it's going to tell you, yes, that's the answer then, right? That's what you told me, right? You fed it that data, and if you feed it the wrong data, you're going to get the wrong answers. So I say think about the data set, right? It really is a data set, right? But if you think about the data set, that it was given various information from all over the internet, right? All over the internet, things that are publicly available. On only at this point, only up until August of 2021, maybe 2022, right? But all of their data, so keep in mind that too, it is not the latest and greatest. It is dated up to a certain point of what's been loaded in there. And I'll give you guys an example. One of the things that when I was testing it out, I said, hey, give me the list of new senators from the 2022 election. This is back in November. So right after, like literally the week or two after the election. So I said, give me the, list of new senators who were elected from the 2022 election, and it straight up told me I only have data back to this date. I don't have that information of things that happened as recently in 2022. So then I said, okay, I get it, right? Give me the list of new senators who were elected from the 2020 election. And it gave me a list of senators who were elected from the 2020 election. Here's the caveat. I was hoping to get those, when I said new senators, I was thinking who were like freshman senators, never been senators before. Instead, it did not really calculate the context of new correctly. I'm trying to think of the best word for it, right? It did not really give me the context of new. And so it just gave me everyone who was elected in 2020. Now, every senator was not up for election. So it's really just those who were elected in 2020, whether they were new or returning senators. And I use that as a test because that's easily information I can verify, right? So I could see how accurate some of the data it was giving me. That's the one thing I'm going to start with. That A, it's a little bit dated in the terms of the information that it has. B, it is not always necessarily the most accurate data, especially if it doesn't get the context of your question, even though you might think your question is like super simple, like new to me, it was easy, right? But it was not easy for that because it did not give me the exact context that I was looking for. So I could have drilled down more. I did not in that particular test, but I invite you guys to go run similar tests and see what you come up with. But that's something we should think about, especially if you're using it for writing your content or assisting you with writing your content, is confirm the accuracy of the data. Don't just say, because they said so, this is what it is. Also keep in mind, it doesn't give you the source of the information because it's more of a compilation, unlike like a search engine like Google that'll lead you to this is the answer, this is the website we got it on, so then you can go and see how accurate that website is, if they're the right source for this, blah blah blah. Then Chat GPT is not doing all that. They're just saying, hey, this is the data you asked for, these are the answers we found out there. Does not know if those answers are necessarily correct. Same thing, I have another friend who we were recently talking about this, and he was saying that he was looking at code, right? So they have a model that does code, and he's a programmer, so he knows how to code. He knows the languages that he was asking it to give him the code for. And it's dope, again, if you're somebody who does programming and you just need to help, how would you solve this issue kind of thing, and get some ideas, it's dope. But he said out of 15 different pieces of code, he had it right. Only one, because he said 14 of them were trash, right? So only one of them were actual usable code that he would have coded or been able to use and drop into whatever he's doing. And it won't, at least off the bat, it won't just write a new whole software for me. Somebody said, they said, what would you do if you were going to create Twitter? And it gave them like a list of different things, right? And then you may have to get more detailed. What would you do if you're going to create this and write the code for this feature? Because it's only going to do snippets of information at a time. I'm not going to get into the billing of it. I'll probably do a whole thing on that for when it gets to the billing side. Because right now, Chat GPT is free. And I say right now because those of us who use the OpenAI side, we are paying already. Paying very little. I mean, it's one of the best, cheapest APIs you can buy, but it is still paying for. So what I do know is after they're done really getting Chat GPT right, it's going to be a cost. I don't know what the cost is going to be. And now, especially if they're going out for sales and they've already started to talk about their valuation, they're not publicly traded right now, but if they're talking about that kind of thing, do know that there's a revenue model coming behind this. So I know I've seen people with courses, and I'm not hating on my course creators, but this is one of the ones I'm going to say is too soon to get into a course for, because essentially everything you learn is going to change over the next 12 months. That's the one thing I can guarantee you, call it whatever, it is going to change. So if you go and you spend $500, $1,000, even $20 for a course, I might do a $20 course. I did buy a book, right? I did buy a book on some stuff, right? But if you go in and start, unless you're learning how to create an AI and learning how to program and stuff like that, that's more of the science behind building the thing. But if you're doing just a Chat GPT course, even an open AI course, I would not spend my money there, because it's going to continue to grow. I might join a community where they're constantly talking about building on this, so they're giving you the latest and the greatest information. But I'm also going to tell you that YouTube is popping with this right now, right? Well, I'm putting something on YouTube about it. It's popping right now. So YouTube's got a lot of information about different things. Discord, if you're not into Discord yet, and I will admit I am not that into Discord. My husband, he's into NFT, so he's in a lot of Discord servers. I'm just getting into Discord, but a lot of OpenAI, ChatGPT itself has a Discord in there, Discord is like a chat group kind of thing, a little bit, think Facebook groups, or Twitter feeds, but a lot more activity. It's weird. But ChatGPT does have their own Discord, and people are creating Discords to help and do different things. If you use for images, so OpenAI, GPT is the same thing that's running these people that are doing images. So like the whole Lensa thing, they're going into OpenAI. All this stuff is connected. So every time y'all hear AI, which is why I wanted to share this, because I feel like either people purposely aren't saying it and they're just trying to sound smart, which y'all know I don't like when people just do things to sound smart, right? Not at the expense of other people, right? So I don't know if they're just doing it to sound smart, and again, maybe create some courses and telling you to learn from them or whatever. But one of the things I don't hear enough people saying is that all these things are interconnected, right? Midjourney, that's the one I was thinking about. I almost want to call it metrical, but it's not. It's just because they start with an M. But Midjourney, that does images, they're going into OpenAI. Lensa, that does those photos, and they had all that stuff. So people literally paid for something. Now, they paid for something they could get for free, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But all of that is OpenAI. Right now, there are some things that are proprietary to those. So let me talk about that. So what a lot of these tools are doing, they're not just opening you up to the world of OpenAI. Even ChatGPT just gives you one line and says, write what you want. Right? It is very wide open. It doesn't give you a lot of direction on the kind of things you should ask, what you should include in your question, how to get the best answers. That's what a lot of these tools are doing. They're pretty much, yes, they're taking that source, but they're making it so that you as a user only need to answer the questions you need to answer. It's one of the things we do in our tool, right? With and without AI, right? Only need to answer the things that you need to answer, and we take care of the rest. And that's what some of these tools are doing. Like, they've written their programs, their prompts, and their calls. They've written them to where they know what the outcome that you want. Like with Lensa, they know you want beautiful pictures of yourself. So they said, in code speak, they said, hey, take these pictures that we give you and make them into beautiful versions based on, this person wants to look like a superhero, this person wants to look like a fairy, this person wants to look like whatever, realistic. So people are able to go in and put in the exact same things, but behind the scenes in the code, they've already written out, do this thing based on this information that I'm giving you. And then they collect that information from you, and then they tell it to the thing. So I think the tools are very valuable. I'm not going to say any tool is just ripping you off and giving you what you can get for free. You would not be able to get exactly what those tools are giving you for free unless or until you learn what that those calls and prompts and what that information is, how they're exactly asking for that information. And A, because I'm building it, and B, because I like to know these things, right? I am constantly like learning and testing new calls, new prompts, new instructions to give it to see if I get that information the way that I want it, right? So that is one of the good things these tools are doing. No tool, very few tools, not gonna say no tool, because I don't know, and I don't know them all and how they're all working, but very few tools are just like another Chat GPT. I have heard, now be careful, I have heard on iPhones, on Apple, and then because I'm an Apple user, right? I have seen posts and articles that there are Chat GPT apps in Apple that are charging people, and literally they are just a dupe of Chat GPT using, I don't even know if they're using Chat GPT data. It's all very kludgy, right? In that case, I'm going to say don't use those. If you are going to try ChatGPT, then I definitely recommend going to openai.com. They have a little thing at the top that talks about ChatGPT and going through that way only. They, to my knowledge, do not have a mobile app. So you can use it on mobile, the same, just go to the website on mobile and you can use it on mobile, but they don't have a downloadable mobile app. So anything right now that's in the App Store is bootleg. It just is, right? So I'm going to tell y'all, don't download those. Don't pay anybody any money. The good thing is that Apple, for the most part, keeps your data secure. So hopefully they aren't getting into your data, but I would steer clear of those. And even when they do say an app is available, because like I said, this is a growing space. I would not be surprised if a month from now there is an actual app. I would only go to OpenAI and click whatever button that they say is their app. Don't go into the App Store and just try to find it, because there are all these dupes and all these things, right? And I'm just here to warn y'all, don't do the things. I feel like I'm off my list here, right? So we talked about, we did not talk about plagiarism. Another thing, I recently listened to another podcast episode from another creator. So a lot of people are testing this. So again, and you guys know I like to tell y'all my sources when I got them, right? So one of the things that they were saying is that they did some testing, and they said 90%, which I think is extremely high. And I don't know what their test subjects were, but 90% of what they got was plagiarized. What I would recommend, and then they also said something else, which was a little bit weird too. So plagiarism definitely can happen and make sense, because like I said, it's a conglomerate of information, right? So it's a huge conglomerate of information. So not everything's going to be exactly the same, but it makes sense, especially if you're asking for something very specific. So if I'm asking about, facts are facts. So if I ask a fact, I'm expecting the same answer. Everybody's going to get the same answer. But if I'm asking it to write me a blog post on podcast SEO, the rise of podcast conferences and how SEO plays into that, that's super specific. Most likely only a few people have ever written about something that specific. And so the chances of me getting plagiarized data is really good, right? And not good meaning good, but this time good being bad, right? So most likely it's going to be a dupe or a very close dupe to something someone else may have written. What I would recommend, if you have anything written, especially if it's something you're going to put out there online somewhere, is running it through Copyscape. Copyscape, for the most part, is free, and you can just copy and paste it into Copyscape. Grammarly also has a plagiarism checker. I'm not sure if it's on their free or their paid side, but I would run it through one of them. And the reason why, so one of the things that they did say in the episode is that they used Chat GPT to see if their information out of Chat GPT was plagiarized. And so I'm assuming they just took the information, opened up another chat and said, hey, is this plagiarized? To ask the thing that wrote the thing if it's really good thing or not doesn't seem like a good test to me. So I'm going to say use a third-party plagiarism checker. I'm going to say Grammarly, like I said, has some AI in it, so I'm not sure how much of it's using from OpenAI or using from some other AI sources. I like Copyscape because Copyscape has been around for decades, y'all. Decades. Been using Copyscape since I was in college. Like, it's been around for decades, and I know that they aren't using that same source data for now. right? We don't know what they might do because this is now more readily available and may be easier or cheaper or whatever to use. But I know that they're actually going out there and looking at the internet. Which, speaking of, Chat GPT is not going out there and actively looking at the internet. So if there's some newer things out there, which is another reason to use one of these other plagiarism checkers, is if there's a newer thing out there, then it may not get picked up. Same thing with newer data. So I just told you guys about my testing on elections, and it just wasn't able to give me data. Also, when it comes to talking about individual people, that may be a little bit skewed too. So of course I looked for me, right? And not in a conceited way, like, yeah, I want to see if they got something about me out there, but also because I have what's called a Google Knowledge Panel. And a Google Knowledge Panel is when Google pretty much recognizes that you are a more knowledgeable person in the area. I got it because I wrote the book, and writing, usually they look at Amazon. If you're an author, you're probably a more knowledgeable person in the area, right? So I know that my name comes up in kind of a special area of Google, almost like having a wiki page, but not a wiki page, right? But I know that comes up in Google, and so I would expect to see a name possibly like my name, right? In somewhere in there. And ChatGPT basically told me it doesn't do individual people. It doesn't necessarily have individual information. So then I said, okay, cool. Maybe I'm not that famous. Like I told you, I'm not doing it to be conceited. Maybe I'm just not that famous. It's cool, right? So I tried looking at another thing. And this is when a couple of weeks ago when Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion were in court, right? And so I looked for information about the court case. I looked for Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez. It couldn't give me anything. And again, it gave me that same, I think his name is Tory. If his name ain't Tory, just know that I know Megan apparently. Right? So I tried to get some information on that, and it didn't have anything about the court case. Then I just put in Megan Thee Stallion, and it gave me kind of what would be on her wiki page, right? It gave me like she went to this school, she's a rapper, she does this, she's got some hits and blah, blah, blah. Very generic information. Not something, if you were following an entertainment site, you was not getting the tea from ChatGPT by Megan. Like, it wasn't. It was very, if I had no idea and I just wanted to see who my kids have been listening to, that kind of surface level information. And I don't even know if it would, maybe I should ask it, is Megan Thee Stallion kid friendly? I want to see what it says. I'm going to do that. I'll report back to you guys on that one, or in the group, I'll report back on that one. So either way, it was not the most in-depth nor the most recent data. I don't want to say accurate, because it was accurate, but it just wasn't recent. So things to keep in mind. Again, it's just not for everything. But let me talk about some of the ways you can use it. So this is not the scare fest, don't use it, right? Like I said, a lot of tools are doing some really good things. So I would keep an eye on it. I think almost every tool, we know Canva recently introduced, I think they got an image and the Magic Write. I played with the Magic Write just last night, just a little bit to see, and it was pretty dope. It was like, hey, what do you want to write? Let's write it. And it did all the things, right? So I think as this year goes on, we're going to see a lot more tools either incorporating AI or showing that they've been incorporating AI. Like, so things like Grammarly that most people didn't even realize used AI, that's going to be part of their marketing now. I don't know them, but if they're smart, if they're listening, right, that needs to now be, we are powered by AI, because now it's a thing, as opposed to more people being scared of it. Now it's a thing, like a badge of honor, right? So for you to say that you have some AI in your tool, say your AI in your system, that's going to be more and more important, right? To say it and state it and put it somewhere. Hence the work that I'm doing, right? I'm following my own advice here, right? So more and more tools are going to be getting AI or admitting that they have AI or talking about it more and more. They're probably also going to be enhancing their AI, because even if they had AI before, like I said, with just OpenAI and the things you can do now with this particular GPT models, is that now you may have already had it, but now you can even enhance it because your data is just crazy, right? Now, on the other side, and again, while I'm not against tools at all, and I think we should keep our eyes open, eyes, ears, and all the things open and leaning in, is that GPT does have something called fine tuning, where you can incorporate more of your own data with the data that they have and make it smarter. And that fine tuning won't be available to other people. So of course we're fine tuning with all of my SEO knowledge, right? The things you learn in the courses and don't see in the book or don't see in the blogs, right? And so it's going to be even more dope because this is now going to use the AI configurations, right? And then use that with my knowledge, and other people won't be able to access that. So another reason why I'm saying I'm not writing off or saying, oh, like all the tools are just giving you could do this for free, because if somebody's fine-tuned their AI, you're not getting that anywhere, right? And they might not tell you, right? Because they don't think you know these things, right? They might not say, I've been fine-tuning my AI, but if they are, then you're not going to get that anywhere. So I'm going to say test out some things, even test out my stuff. I ain't going to lie, right? We're actually going to be opening up something in the next day or two. I probably should have done it before I did this episode. Maybe I'll interject right here and tell you that you can now go and test out publicly some free things we're going to be opening up in SEO Assist so you can get a feel for the system. All right. I guess that's my commercial with no link, right? I would say, let me make a link, right? If you go to SEO Assist /try me, right, you're going to be able to see what we've opened up to people, right? So go there for that. But a lot of tools are going to be growing with this. On the business side, and I'll be talking more about this just like I did. If you did not go back and listen to that recession episode, go back and listen to that. We need to be thinking more about what tools we can provide, whether they're AI or not AI. But for today, since we're on this conversation, and this is part of my 2023 predictions, is that more and more tools are going to be the breakout stars. Tools are going to be the thing that helps somebody, even if you're not selling a tool separately, like how SEO Assist is publicly available separately from any of my coaching services. Even if you're a coach, if you've got good tools, if you've got something that you can create for someone and help them to get through the thing faster, that might be the difference between the talking head coach and the talking head with a tool coach. Right? And not to say we're just talking head, but you know what I mean. You see all these people talking and you're like, how do I choose which one? The one who tells you that they've got a system or something built, not learn my framework, right? Not that, but the one who says, learn my framework and this thing's going to help you do it, right? So you don't even have to worry about if you didn't get the learning, right? Those are the people that people are going to choose more of. You guys know a couple of weeks ago on the show, or a couple of months ago now on the show, I had Nicole Barham. And I'm not going to go into how her tool is built, but she's got the 5-minute bookkeeper. It's a tool, right? And so you get the tool, you join the community. If you want more, you get the coaching, but she's really positioned herself very nicely, right? And go back to that episode if you're not hear all about it, but very nicely on making a process, bookkeeping, that generally is to people boring, scary, arduous, all the words, right? All the negative adjectives we can assign to it. But she's now taken this tool and made it easier for people to do the work. 2023 is going to be do the work, right? We are back outside, so people don't want to sit and listen and watch and learn forever, right? They got less free time. And really, I'm going to say less free time, because I feel like people are making up for past. Like, we haven't been outside for the last 3 years. I'm going to throw every party. I'm going to go to every barbecue. I'm going to try every restaurant. I am going to get together for any and every occasion, which means less time that I want to spend in front of my computer, less time that I want to be working on the things that I need to work on in my business, especially if the things I don't like to work on in my business, and more, I'm going to lean into tools to just do it. And whether it be tools for myself or tools I can share with my team, right? That's going to be another important thing. How team friendly are you, right? Because I'm going to say the people who have a team also have more money to do other things. All right. And so if you've got things that their team can use, right, we're thinking already like how to do enterprise, how to get people's users in there, how to charge accordingly for team as opposed to person kind of uses of the system. I'm in, and I'm not going to talk back, I'm actually in 2 different things. So this happened 2 different team tool memberships that I'm in. And I'm like, hey, I want to bring my assistant in because that's the person who really does this work, right? Who would be using it more. And one of them was like, both of them actually, both in both cases, buy a second license. And I'm like, son, that doesn't make any sense. Because I don't want them, I don't want them being able to use it for other people and things. And not that I don't love my team. The tool is almost like when you go into work. You use the things that are at your desk. You don't take them home and start doing other work with them. You should not. I know people do, right? But you should not, right? As a business owner, I do want to mitigate that a little bit. Like they should only be able to work on the things that we have here, not necessarily get their own super separate account. And then the other thing is like some of these tools, one of the tools was like, you still would have one account, but you got to pay for two people to get access to the community. Like that makes even less sense. So now I'm paying for a whole separate account that they can't even use if they wanted to separately. Either way, if you are owning a tool or owning a program, start thinking about that. What do I charge if, like, I've been in other programs where they offer like a spouse discount, especially when you guys work on the same business. It's all one business. So think about how can I charge per business, and then not gonna say you got to give away the kitchen sink if they want their members to join in, but have a lesser thing for one person team, 2-person team. I've got some other tools that charge per user, that kind of thing. So I feel like I've talked forever. That is my 2023 predictions, and more so where I think AI, because I really think even the other things I talked about, I want to talk about them and talk about them first because they're important and we should not forget about them. Like I think this GA3, GA4 thing is going to really knock some people off their game because they're not paying attention to it. They're paying more attention to the AI boom, and then they're going to be mad in June when their metrics go away. Right? I also would not be surprised if they push the date back a little bit, but we don't rest on that. Start collecting your data now. So I think that's important, which is again why I wanted to make sure I threw it in here. The people first content, which this whole AI thing is driving that people first content. Google's going to get more and more aggressive about evaluating the type of content that they put as first, especially since one of the rumors on who wants to buy, and I don't know if they're going to take a portion of, or they want to buy / invest in OpenAI or the Chat GPT, or both, right? It's Microsoft, and not necessarily Microsoft for their tools, but Microsoft for Bing, their search engine that is real. But a lot of people don't use it. I get traffic from it, so it's real to me, right? And they want to make that better. They've got this, they've had Bing for maybe 2 decades now, and it is not doing 2 decades worth of delivery, right? So they're definitely going to want to use that to try to put that into their search engines, which means Google is going to want to do more. Google also has, funny enough, the room I was in, we started talking about Google Lens, which is a little bit of what they were testing out. Because like I said, AI, the artificial intelligence and the fact of isn't new, and it's not just in the labs or in the movies. Like we've heard of AI before, robots and stuff, but a lot of companies have been using it to start to influence their tools and making models of their own, getting data of their own. OpenAI just light yeared across everyone and made it more commercially available. That's what really it is. Not even commercially, it's more publicly, because it's not even just for businesses to use. Anybody and their mother can now go out and use it. I've heard people writing resumes, writing term papers, writing job descriptions. Like I've heard people writing all kinds of things, and it's not bad. Just make sure that the data is accurate. If you are using it to sell that content or do something like get in Google or something, make sure that you're putting more you in there instead of AI. So put the you before AI, right? You AI. Those are some of the things, like I said, companies have been using it. It's going to be a big thing. I don't want to overshadow some of the other updates that are happening or things that you should be thinking about and considering for this year, because they are big, and I'm sure more things are going to happen. But I think a lot of attention is going to be on this space, and this space, I probably should do a mid-year, because this space is going to change and grow so rapidly. Literally 2 months ago, we didn't have Chat GPT. We didn't, while people were doing AI images, we didn't realize that they were AI images in the sense that they are now. People definitely weren't thinking of how they can use them in their own business. People just weren't, they just weren't here. And now they're here, and I swear, I made this other prediction, which I will end the episode with this. I made this other prediction a couple weeks ago on my personal page. I made a comment about back when Clubhouse first started. You guys remember when Clubhouse first started, right? It was all the rage. It was all the buzz. I think this is 100x what happened there. So don't even think this is going to be like Clubhouse. This is going to be 100x the craziness that happened there. But one of the things somebody said early on, or early-ish on in the Clubhouse days when I got on, was marketers ruin everything. And they might be right. Although I might be a little bit in the marketer category, they might be right. People came on there. People started running courses on how to do this on Clubhouse, how to do that on Clubhouse. People started running rooms like they were webinars. People just started like inviting any and every one, not really using Clubhouse to expand their circle, but really to get their circle in there as another marketing channel to sell to people. I got my email list to get on the Clubhouse that I could sell them again. Like they messed it up a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. Like I like it, and I still like it because it's a more of an open platform. You can have conversations, but I go on there a lot less. I'm in a lot less rooms because a lot less people want to have conversations. A lot more people just want to talk at you, and I don't like that. If I want to listen to you, I listen to your podcast. But that statement about how marketers ruin Clubhouse, I see it already with marketers ruining AI. Specifically Chat GPT, right? And they won't be able to, I mean, they don't run the company, so it's not like they can run them into the ground, but influencing how people use them. I already told you guys what's happening over in Apple, where people are trying to make things that are like them and sell them to you. All those things are going to happen. A lot of them are going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. They are going to ruin in our, this is the Wild West open world space. Like people are going to start telling you, this is how you have to use Chat GPT. There's no one way, right? People are going to tell you, you've got to pay me hundreds and thousands of dollars to run Chat GPT, to learn Chat GPT. There's YouTube. Right. And this is the time where people are giving so much information away. It's crazy. Right. But there's YouTube. Max that out before you go and pay somebody for a course. I'm not going to say don't take a course. Right. But max that out. People are going to start offering Chat GPT or GPT services. Right. Believe me, that's going to happen. Right. I'm not going to say don't use them, but I'm going to say use YouTube. Use what you got out there before you start getting into it. If you need more help, if you need, and I'm not knocking anyone who does a course. I'm not knocking anyone who charges for the services or consulting on it, especially if people want your one-on-one time. So I'm never going to knock that. If somebody comes to me and says, can you sit down and show me how to use ChatGPT? I'm going to send them a link to pay me to show them how to use ChatGPT. Not because I'm trying to get over, right? But because it will require my time to do it. Right. So I'm not saying people don't have the right to charge. I'm saying you guys as my community, decide what you want, money or time. I would say take the time to go learn enough to do the thing, because a lot of the stuff you can easily learn and do, or decide you don't want to learn, you don't want to spend that time learning or figuring it out, that you just want to pay for it, and know that you are paying for the person's time. You're not paying, and their knowledge, because they got it, but you're not paying because it's something that's gatekeeping. People always say, oh, people are gatekeeping. They're not necessarily gatekeeping. They're really just saving you time. Right? Maybe saving you some effort. They know some tips, some tricks, some things. Like I just told you guys in the last hour, all the testing and things that I've done and things. So I'm saving you having to do that. Right? So that's what I'm saving. That's what I'm charging for. Not necessarily something that no one else in the world knows. Just something that a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people don't want to take the time to figure out. Right? So again, I'm not knocking them. I do think marketers are going to try to put a lot more around this than they probably should, which is what I've seen with some of these. And the course I've seen are just Chat GPT courses. Just knowing Chat GPT is like only knowing how to make the appetizer for a meal, right? You're not giving everything. You're not feeding everything. You might not even give him stuff that's sustainable. Just something to pick on, chew. You can get it right now. So if you're hungry, that kind of stuff, right? So at this point, I would not. Maybe I'm going to say 3, maybe 6 months. I might say, okay, yeah, now's a good time to take a course. It's gotten so advanced. Like almost like in the beginning of Facebook ads. Facebook ads used to be super easy. I used to run my own Facebook ads. Now they've gotten so crazy, targeting, in depth, that I probably would hire someone if I wanted to run Facebook ads. Not because I don't know, not because I couldn't do it, but A, because I don't really want to spend time to relearn the whole thing, and B, because it's gotten so complex. It's going to get there. But today, right now, January of 2023, in case anybody's not sure when I put out this episode, right? I'm going to say this is not the time to jump into a course just yet, right? Wait till there's a little bit more structure around it. Wait till there's a lot more use cases of it, proven use cases. Because just because you can write the emails with Chat GPT doesn't mean they convert. Just because you can write the blog post with Chat GPT doesn't mean it's going to get found. Doesn't mean it's going to get traffic. Doesn't mean it's going to convert to sales, right? So just because you can do the things doesn't mean that things are going to work, right? And I think that's what's really important. Even the people, I saw one person that was like, they did say, I created all this copy and this is using Chat GPT, and then I went in and I zhuzhed it up. If you don't know what to zhuzh up, right? They happen to be a pretty good copywriter already and we're already converting. So when they go and they read something, they're going to change one sentence that could be the money bag sentence. You know what I mean? So are they teaching you that? Right? Are they teaching you the copywriting that you would do with or without Chat GPT, and then showing you how to enhance it with Chat GPT? I think those are important. And when people give you examples of what they've done with it, that's going to be, yes, you did this, but did it meet the objective of the thing? A lot of times we get sold on how to do the thing, not necessarily how to evaluate if that thing is a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, I could take a course on building a house, but I wouldn't live in it. It's probably going to fall down on you. It's definitely not going to make it more than 3 years. Of one good storm. I live in Jersey, and it happens to be very windy, stormy around here now. But one good windstorm, and what that house I built is going to go down, right? Like the Three Pigs, right? I say all this to say, I know it's a little bit longer than my normal episodes, but hopefully very helpful. But I say all this to say is that don't just jump into something too quickly with this whole Chat GPT thing, or just GPT overall, AI, any of this. I would not jump into anything too quickly, too pricey. If you do, evaluate how well it's working for them, not just the fact that they're going to teach you how to do a thing. So that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll talk about this more in my Facebook group. Head on over to SEO Growth Mob. We'll be talking about this and talking about a little bit of how SEO Assist is using this and able to help you. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.